Hello.
Hello. Hi, Kenda.
Me
Ooh,
too.
I hope it will too, Kenda. Kenda hopes that this will get her unstuck on her midpoint.
Oh, good.
I
Yeah,
feel like
that's
it
where
will.
I
That's what
am.
Adrienne's hoping too.
Yeah.
I think that's what Adrienne's hoping too.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone. Um, so today what we're going to do is go through how to test and develop a story idea with Adrienne's work in progress and talk about, she's about 20,000 words into writing it.
Should you explain what how to test and develop a story idea is?
Yeah. So, how to test and develop a story idea is Adrienne put a link to it. It's free.
Mhm.
It's a class, and it's on the Ninja Writer system for just starting to build a roadmap through your book. So it starts with the spark of an idea, and it goes through character development, like developing your characters, developing your setting and your situation, and then that's the developing your story idea. Then we test it by coming up with 5 key plot points. If it can hold up 5 key plot points, then it's a big enough idea for a novel. And you end up with a like a little roadmap. If this is all the plotting you did, it would be, I mean, I like to plot more than this, but this is like the bare minimum of plotting that will help you to write your story, so that you are, and it's flexible. It's like a flexible plot, as you can see where, Adrienne's redoing hers now.
It's much
But she's
easier
not going to
to.
have to rewrite all of her, like what she's already written. And I'm just gonna put this out there that I think that what she'll find is that her 5 key plot points were closer to being on point. Like they're pretty close to being on point. I don't think that she's gonna
Kinda.
have to
I've
change
had
things
some
up.
pretty big stakes that I have upped that I just
So how you get from plot point to plot point might change, and that's why this is
mm-hmm.
a flexible system or a flexible plot. Um, uh, but I do think that like you're still going from, if we take the roadmap analogy all the way through, like
Mm-hmm.
you're still going from California to Boston. It's
Yeah.
just like, are you going to go like north
Yeah,
and
my
east
beginning
or
and my
south and then
ending
east?
are fairly similar. I have like my main point. I think why I'm so stuck right now is that I think that with the changes that I have made, the plot point that it affects the most is the main climax, and that's where I am right now. Like I'm reaching the
Mm-hmm.
point where I need to start getting to it, and so like it's mostly like that's the biggest one, and it's like it's led to a little bit of changes in the third act, but not too much.
Okay. So tell them a little bit about your story. Hi, Leilani. Hi, Teresa. Hi,
So
Pat.
hi. So I'm writing a I guess it's like a urban paranormal fantasy with like a romance edge to it. Like slow burn romance.
I would say you are
YA.
writing an urban fantasy with a strong romantic subplot.
Mm-hmm. And it's YA, and it's set in Oregon, and it's about a girl who can read minds, and in this world I have created, like it's our world, but in this world there are readers, and this is what I'm calling the mind readers. Very creative of me, I know. And readers have what I've been calling guides, and the guides are kind of like, I mean, they're their guide. They're there to kind of help them focus and be a little more like normal in the world.
I think from what I've heard of the story, they're kind of like lightning rods or something. Like they help to protect the readers from being overwhelmed.
Yeah. So like they can
buffers.
they're the one other person in the world, like you have guides and readers have a connection so they can like read each other's mind. So the story starts with my reader, Birdie, meeting her guide, Nate. And she meets him because Nate can all of a sudden just like talking to her in her head, and it's not like, she's it's not what she expected to happen. So it's not usually how that goes. People don't usually respond to her when she's reading them. So it's introducing this, like the main point of this book. I imagine it'll be a series is how I'm looking at it. And the main point of this book is introducing this dynamic between like readers and guides. And it's got kind of a like Veronica Mars-ish mystery subplot, like that's driving this book alone. Because I kind of have this idea that like each book could be read as a standalone, but there'll be a flow for it, and each book is going to have like a standalone mystery. And in this mystery, Nate, who is my guide or Birdie's guide, has his girlfriend has gone missing, and the police have just kind of like given up searching for them, and he needs Birdie to help him prove that she's not dead, like that she's just missing.
Okay.
I have.
So the first step in how to test and develop a story idea is to think about your main character, or also just to make a list of the key characters in your story. So what did you have originally on your H2DSI?
I had originally, for my characters, I had a couple of them. I had a girl with the power to read minds, an eccentric old lady, nosy town folk, nosy town people, a teacher / mentor, and a boy who knows her biggest secret.
Okay.
And so the girl with the power to read minds, obviously my main character.
Hang on a second. I'm on a live stream. Thank you. Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, so that had now that you've written some, you can actually like go a little, not broader, deeper, I guess, into who those characters actually are. So you have Birdie, who is your girl who can read minds, and you have Nate, who is the boy who knows her secret. And then you have two eccentric.
I do. I love them. It's the aunts that Birdie has moved in with at the start of this book, who they're aunts on her mom's side, and her mom was a reader, so they really know, it runs on that side of the family, and they understand what she's going through.
Well, kind of. They understand secondhand from their sister, right? Or their
it's not, the reader guide thing has never been a secret to them. So
so they're her great aunts. They were her sister's aunt, or her mother's aunts.
Yep.
Her grandmother is their sister, or was their sister. And okay, and then you've also added in her father.
Yeah, her dad, who I think he's mostly in this story. He's not there he is works for, I think I have him working for the Coast Guard, and he goes on like missions where he might be gone for a couple weeks at a time, which is part of why they've moved to this town called Tamarack to live with the aunts, because there's some lost trust between the dad and Birdie.
Okay.
And so
the dad is still working somewhere else, so she's left without her dad often.
Yeah.
Okay. And who else? Caroline.
Yes, I have Caroline.
She's the missing girlfriend.
And she's going to play a bigger part in the third act.
Okay. So she's a minor character.
Mm-hmm.
And her story will be done in this book.
Yeah. That's going to be a standalone story.
Right. But she
likely,
although you never know, but she likely will not be a character in an ongoing story.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not planning for her to be.
So are there any other friends that
Yeah, I have. Okay, so this is one of the characters that I did not plan on having in the story as much, and I've upped the stakes a lot more for her, so she's in it a lot more than she was. But Birdie's best friend Elle, who was her best friend when they lived in Portland, where they moved from. Mm-hmm. And the reason they moved from Portland was because Elle was murdered. And Birdie was, I mean, she figured, I can read minds and I can help find the killer. And it got her, like she did, but this is prior to this story all starting, but it kind of like, it's part of the reason why there's like lost trust between her and her dad. And like, she was not very safe about it. And she has a lot of guilt. Like she feels like if she had like she could have stopped this earlier. I think that I'm maybe going to have like Elle was maybe involved with a guy that she shouldn't have been involved with. And there's some guilt there that Birdie feels like she should have been able to stop that before it happened.
Okay, but Elle is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so she has, but I have had some scenes as I've been writing. Elle's kind of popped into some scenes, like the memory of her is kind of haunting.
Okay.
For a little bit.
Okay. So are there any other characters that you've added to your list?
Oh, yes, there's Birdie's mom who
is also
died.
Dead.
Yes.
A lot of dead people.
My book. I didn't realize that. But she died when she was really young, and so it's been just her and her dad. But her mom was a reader, and that's why she's a reader. And there's a whole plot line where I am in my book right now as far as writing it. She's just found out there's the readers and guides are supposed to have kind of a like a soulmate connection. Mm-hmm. And her mom turned down her soulmate. And it's part of the reason why he died. So that's what she's getting into, right? And where I currently am in the story.
Okay.
She's found her aunts have kept like a box full of diaries and journals and stuff. So she's getting to know her mom through that.
Why did her aunts have a box full of her mom's journals? I wonder if maybe she found them when they were packing up to move.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be that too. I need to think that out more. I think I wanted it to be like maybe the mom lived with the aunts also, but I think that's just, I don't know about that one.
Well, she might have when she was young, so maybe they would have it, but she wouldn't leave her diaries there.
Yeah. Yeah, that could make more sense. I think that her dad.
It would make more sense if she finds them like hidden. How did her mom die?
I just worked that out actually. That the way that I've worked out the guide and the reader like connection is that they're supposed to be soulmates, but it's stronger on the guide side. So the reader is the guide's soulmate, but it's not necessarily that the guide is the reader's soulmate, which is why she was able to like disconnect enough from her guide to be with Birdie's dad. And but there's still, so there's a I mean, it's a really like strong connection between the guide and the readers. And it's the reader, like once the reader and the guide have met, it kind of like solidifies the bond. And it's just they get headaches and it makes them ill because they don't have that other person there. For the reader, they don't have that other person there to like help them focus and help them live like normal lives. So she still had to like be in contact with Samuel, who I am. That's her. That was her mom's guide. And he like so that they would go and try to meet up like every couple weeks or something like that, just to keep that bond for both of them, but mostly for her. And I think that for him, the soulmate part of the bond was stronger for him than for her. And so I have it where he was jealous of her, not jealous of her, but just upset that she didn't choose him and refuses to see her one time. And so she is driving home and just gets in a car accident because of, at least that's what she's told. Like that's what they think happened, what her aunts think happened, and her dad, that because she wasn't able to, like Samuel wouldn't see her, it made her, I have it as headaches are the main symptom, but like, she just distracted her and caused her to get in a car accident.
The mom-dad had a really strong relationship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Pat says maybe dad was throwing out the journals, but I don't think he would. I think, me personally, I think dad would give the journals to her.
Yeah, I like that idea. I hadn't thought about that.
Like maybe he can't read them. It's too hard. And he thinks she would want them, so he gives them to her, but he hasn't looked at them.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's a good idea. I think it would also be easy for her to just find them in a box because he's gone. They've moved into the aunt's like attic apartment in this. They live in like a old craftsman house on the beach. And they moved into their attic apartment so that because her dad has it was like a compromise because Birdie didn't want her dad to stop working. He loves what he does. But her dad didn't want to leave her alone anymore after what happened with Ellen in Portland and everything. And so it could be easy because the dad leaves at the beginning. He goes on a trip and he's not there for at least the first half of the story.
So let's talk about the setting. I don't think the setting has changed much. So you have an old craftsman house that belongs to the great aunts, and they live together, and it has a big attic, and Birdie and her father live in the attic, and it's on the beach in Tamarack, which is a made-up town in Oregon.
Yeah.
And there's a high school. And there's the town itself.
It's like a touristy little beach town is how
But there's also, are you going to have a setting that's someplace where Caroline actually is?
Yeah. So Caroline, that's the third act twist, is that they during the main climax or somewhere between the main climax and the third act twist, the police find a body and they think it's Caroline. And so they think that somehow they deduce that she is killed. They think she's just killed herself. And this is it. And the case is closed. And there's a wake for her or a funeral. And Birdie goes to the funeral and she uses her reading abilities, which doesn't use them, but she uses them. She does because she overhears one of Birdie's friends kind of alluding to the fact that Caroline is not dead, that she's run away and she's in Portland, and she had pretty abusive parents like she's run away.
Mm-hmm.
And that is part of the third act twist a little bit.
Okay. Okay, so the setting then is also wherever the funeral is being held is a setting. You have Nathan's house. I've seen that part.
Yeah. They go on Nate and Birdie go on a road trip to I think I have it is Eugene, Oregon to so I have another minor character who ends up being Caroline was cheating on Nate with this character who Nate had always just said was like Caroline's stalker. So early on in the book, they go to see him because he's a year older than them and has graduated and is in college. And so they go to see him to kind of question him because Nate thinks that if Birdie can read his mind, then they'll find out that it was involved in some way, but they didn't find anything out. So a little bit of it is set in Eugene as well.
Okay. So the situation is like one sentence, maybe two.
Mm-hmm. So the situation is hold on.
So start with a girl who is a mind reader.
Mm-hmm.
Meets a boy who is her guide.
Yeah.
And he asked her to help him find.
Yeah, that's what I have.
So he's her guide and possible soulmate.
Yeah.
And he asked her to help him find his possibly dead girlfriend.
Yes.
Definitely missing girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's do the 5 key plot points.
Okay.
So what did you have before as your first plot point?
My first plot point for the inciting incident, originally I had, and this one I don't think has changed a whole lot, just a little bit, but I have Birdie attends her first day at her new school where she has to hide her powers for the first time from her peers. As she's sitting in class, a voice reaches out to her, telling her they know her
is this
secret.
the first time that she has to hide?
That's part of the thing that changed, because I think as I was writing, one of the conflicts that I have is I've made that conflict between like her and her reading abilities a lot stronger, and I think she's gonna be like really she's suppressing it. She's not using.
Well, that was how it was before.
Kind of, but I feel like there was still. I don't know. I think I want, like, when she goes to the funeral and she overhears Caroline's friend, I want that to be like the first time that she's read somebody since Portland. That wasn't Nate.
Okay, but what I don't understand is it sounds like you're saying that for the first time she's trying to hide her ability. So before she just let all of her friends know she was a mind reader.
Well, I think what I meant to say there was that she's trying to like I don't know. I think when I originally was planning this, like when I was originally plotting it, I had that she like went to a school with other readers, and then I abandoned that. Like I didn't want to develop like a whole magical world yet. That was big for me.
The first truly odd thing that happens for her is that she reads and someone reads back.
Yeah, that's what I have. So
okay, so that's the rest of that is part of the ordinary world, and you'll figure that out. But the key plot point here is that she reads this boy who she's drawn to for whatever reason. And
Nate reaches out.
Even though she's trying, she's suppressing. She's trying not to read, but she finds herself like unable to not read this boy, and then he reads her back.
Yeah, I have that he's able to kind of force himself into her head, like if you wanted to, like to beyond these like walls that she's put up.
Well, that's I would watch the language there because I want to like him.
Yeah, that's true. Because I
I
have
kind of
a
like the
way.
idea of him trying to keep like she is surprised that what if she's surprised that she tries to read him because she can't seem to stop herself, and instead of just easily being able to read him like she's always been able to do for everybody, he
Mhm.
resists and she pushes harder, and then he pushes back and says, look, if you don't want me to read you, don't read me.
Yeah. Hmm. That's a good idea.
Or how about you stay out of my head and I'll stay out of yours, or something along those lines.
Well, yeah, because I have heard, like, so for the lock-in is, the answer to the question. And the question that I had in the inciting incident was Nate asking Birdie to help him find Caroline.
Right. Well, so but the inciting incident is someone reads her back, and
Mhm.
she has to like deal with that, right?
Yeah, I guess. I feel like that felt like lower stakes.
Well, I mean, well then you're going to have this like section in between where
Mhm.
they meet after class or after school. I'm remembering a scene on like
Mhm.
a
Yeah, that's when he asks her for her.
right, but you can take a little time to get there, I think.
Mhm.
um and then he says, I need you to help me. I don't think that's the lock-in. Was that what you were going to say was the lock-in?
No, her responding, like her agreeing
Yeah,
to
everything
help
from him
him.
reading her back to him asking her to help him is the inciting incident.
Mhm.
And then her saying and then the lock-in, what did you have before for the lock-in?
For the lock-in before, I had um I had I just had Birdie agreeing to help Caroline, or to help Nate find Caroline, like in exchange for, like, she's got this ulterior motive of trying to figure out like what the heck is going on with this whole guide business, because she'd never heard of guides.
I think that might be the start of your stakes problem, because he's unlikely to not help her figure
Yeah.
that out anyway.
So I
Because
also have this thing about, um right now I have, after Nate asks her that question, Birdie goes home, and one of the aunt's boyfriends, Albert, used
mm-hmm.
to work for, was like, um Caroline's family is really wealthy, and they are big players in this small town, and he used to work for the family as like a butler, or some kind of position where he had gotten really close with Caroline before. And
And he's 1 year
something
older than her.
no. Albert is like the aunt's
Oh,
boyfriend.
he's the aunt's boyfriend. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and he somehow, he gets becomes like a suspect in Caroline's like missing person case. And I think I needed to up the stakes with him. And what I have adding in for him, for Albert, is that he is, so when Birdie and her dad move in with the aunts, they moved in over the summer, so she wasn't going to school yet. She doesn't know anybody, and everybody there is like her aunts and her dad, and everybody's kind of pushing her to not like suppress her.
Not
And
what? You're having some
they
audio
know
issues. Uh-oh. Everyone's pushing her to what now?
they can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So everybody is that she's around at the beginning of the book, or like right up to the start of the book. So her dad and her aunts are like, knows they know what happens if she suppresses her reading skills.
Mhm.
And they don't want her to do that. And Albert is the only one at the beginning of the story that she's around that doesn't know that she's a reader. That doesn't, and so she like can be, she bonds with him because she can be kind of normal with him, and he's not like trying to get her to do something that she really doesn't want to do.
Okay.
And so that is what I have. I think that's kind of
So one thing,
lock
does
in it.
Dad know about the whole guide thing?
I think he does. And I think that he thinks that he has like blamed his wife's death on her guide. And so there's going to be some conflict at some point when he finds out that Birdie has found her guide.
Okay, because it seems like it's almost like cruel for him to not tell her that she needs to have a guide, or it's going to be like.
Well, it's not a problem until they find their guide. Like she's fine. Like she doesn't feel that the guy. I feel like the soulmate part of that and like the pole part is
but
more.
It is a okay. Because it is a problem if the guide centers her and she needs that centering.
Yeah, I think that she's just hoping that she doesn't like meet her guide.
Well,
If she doesn't meet her guide, or like they'll get there when they get there, you know? Like I don't know. That I think that
but in the meantime she's making herself sick because she doesn't have a guide.
I think that also that like cuz her dad's a good guy, and I think that if her mom had told her dad when her mom had chosen her dad over her guide, that what that would mean for her, like like the full extent of what it would mean, that he would have just backed off. So I think the mom was not as open.
But the aunts know.
The aunts have been supportive of Nate, like from the moment. Like they knew as soon as she met Nate, they knew what he was. Like,
so it's not reading that's causing her a problem. It's
her she's not doing it, and
so why does she need a guide if like once she meets him, then she needs him, but until she meets him, she doesn't actually need him?
Well, like once she's, I have it where like once she's met her guide, once a reader meets their guide, it like takes some pressure off, and it's just like they have somebody there, and like it's to kind of share the burden, and it makes a big difference on the, I don't know, psyche or whatever.
What would happen if Nate has been her guide all along, remotely, like until they actually find each other? How unusual is it that she moves to a little town where her actual guide actually is?
Well, I don't think I thought about that, but also her mom grew up there. Like there's a reason they're moving to that specific town.
Right.
Like they have a connection there. Her mom grew up there. Her aunts live there.
Okay. But how odd is it? Like, what was her guide from there as well?
Yeah, I think so. Her mom and her mom knew her guide, like from, like she always knew who her guide was, like from childhood. Like they grew up together.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay. So if your inciting incident is that she meets her guide,
Mm-hmm.
and her lock-in is that I don't think it's just going to be that she agrees to help him. I think that because she might agree to help him, but not as a reader, just as a, a human, you know, like, fine, I'll help you, but I'm not going to read. I don't read, period. And then the lock-in would be the first time she actually does read, right? In the book. Like, and the first time since, which would mean that you wouldn't want her to try to read Nate. It would be more like
I don't want her to, like, because I there's gonna be like a I don't know, because I think that I have something that I had been thinking about for Nate and Birdie at some point was that so Nate's parents are a reader and a guide. And there's some way, I think that I thought that maybe there's some way that Nate's parents know of, or to like sever the connection for a reader, like so that the reader's not a reader anymore. And Nate knows that his parents know how to do that, or have information on how to do that. And so he kind of agrees that if she helps Caroline, if she helps him with Caroline, he'll help her become normal. And what she'll find out later, like during the main climax, I think is this is one of the big things that I added to the main climax, is she finds out that it's possible, but it has like a kind of a severe consequence for Nate to sever the bond. And he didn't tell her that.
What is the consequence?
I don't know. I haven't worked that out yet. That is a newer thing that I was playing with.
Okay.
I think that well, you know, I had that the soulmate part of the bond is stronger on the guide side than it is on the reader side. And look, so at first I was like, well, one of the consequences would be that he's going to be alone, you know, like she's his soulmate. And if, you know,
well, yeah, but I mean, he knows who she is. So if she's his soulmate, she's a soulmate, whether she's a reader or not, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, so she's moved in with her aunts. She feels responsible for her best friend's murder. How is her best friend murdered, and why does she think it's her?
That was prior to the story happening.
Right.
That's why they left Portland, is because her best friend was murdered, and she used her reading abilities to kind of help catch the killer. And it worked, but she's just got this guilt.
It just seems like such a huge story for backstory. I'm wondering if it wouldn't not be, because now you've got a murder and a kidnapping and a disappear. Like, you've got a lot of big, like, that's a lot of big things for one person. And I'm wondering if instead of a murder, it could be more like.
I don't want her to be alive, though.
Why? Because
it kind of messes up the story. I need those stakes to be higher.
Well, couldn't they be? How does that raise the stakes? She's dead.
Because why? If she was alive, why would they move from Portland?
Because what if she isn't dead? She just learned, like, what if Birdie used her powers in some way that she thought was helpful to Elle, and it backfired, and Elle stopped being her friend, and Birdie went into, say, like some sort of a depression or something, and her dad just said, they just moved because he didn't want her to be alone while he was on his business trips.
I feel like that doesn't feel big enough to me for her to like not to be suppressing, because it causes her a lot of pain to suppress her abilities. And that's why like I need something big enough that's going to keep her following through with that part of the storyline.
Well, it's not been that long, and she doesn't actually, I mean, the
but
first
that's
time
what I
she
need
meets
to work
Nate.
in. That's I need to work that in though. That's the part that I'm need to
No,
go
but
back.
I mean, she starts. I mean, she tries to read Nate like right at
She
the beginning.
doesn't try to read him. He reads her, and it shocks her.
Okay, but he can only read her, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think you need a murder for her to want to suppress her. It would be enough if she's lost her best friend, or there was like, this high level of embarrassment or something to where her, she couldn't even go to school anymore. And
what if she didn't find Elle's killer? What if that's like the overarching, like leading into the next book? Like, what if that wasn't so tied up in a neat little bow?
Yeah. But that you still now have her involved in 2 murders, or 2 possible, at least 1 murder and 1 possible murder. And I'm wondering how you can contain them, combine them. So like, how important is it? Like, what if, it ends up, what if instead of her helping Nate, it's Nate helping her to find her best friend's murderer?
That's I have to replot my whole entire book. Like and so much of it would have to be
why
thrown
we're
away.
here, huh?
Well, I know, but I didn't think I was gonna have to throw away half of what I've already written by doing that. And I would need to completely start over.
How much of what you've already written has to do with Elle?
Not very much, but I don't know. I like the part with Elle. I don't know. I think I wanted this to be kind of inspired.
I mean, what if Elle
I
gets
wanted
murdered,
this to be,
and that's book 2 is them solving her murder?
I wanted this to be kind of heavily inspired by like Veronica Mars.
Okay.
In Veronica Mars, there's this whole big thing that happens before the story even starts. And it's like haunting her throughout the whole series.
Okay.
So I was kind of following that format. But that's
okay. So there in Veronica Mars there would be like 2
yeah, it's like an ongoing, kind of like there's an overarching mystery and then like a standalone mystery.
But wait, the way you have it now is there's no actual mystery around Elle. She's murdered.
Well, yeah, so that's what I need to figure out, because that's the big thing that I'm adding in, is that I think I had it tied up too neatly before the story even started.
Okay.
And it needs to be more ongoing.
I mean, she needs to at least acknowledge like why am I attracting murders and kidnappings and whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's okay as long as it's acknowledged and not acknowledged, I guess.
Well, and maybe I need to, I don't know, maybe I need to just get rid of the Caroline part.
Well, no, I don't necessarily. I like the idea of what you're saying. I wasn't picking that up because I didn't see a mystery around Elle, but now I understand. So, And also, there's no one ever thinks that Caroline's been murdered.
No, that she's missing. They don't think she's been murdered until like right before the third act twist when they find a body. And they're just like, it's been months and the police is just
what
like.
What does Nate want her to do exactly?
Nate wants her. So at the beginning of the book, when he asks for her help, he thinks there's this boy who was Caroline's neighbor. His name is Derek, and Nate has I think Nate was jealous of him or something. Like he tells Birdie that Derek was obsessed with Caroline, that he was always obsessed with Caroline, and that he was kind of stalkerish, and he was a year older than them, and has like gone away to college, and he thinks that Derek knows something about what happens. And so what he's asking her at the beginning is for her to go with him to see Derek, because he thinks if she can read Derek, then it'll help him find Caroline.
Okay. So, but Caroline is not with Derek.
No. And they get there and there's a whole nother can of beans, because she doesn't want to read Derek because she's like suppressing her abilities. And
why does she go if she's not going to?
I think that she wants to know more about the whole guide thing, and she knows that when she's around him, she's got this like weird feeling. It's a different feeling than she's used to, and it helps her feel a little more normal. And I think that was something that I was struggling with too, which is why I started developing this idea that maybe like Nate knows some way to like sever her reading abilities to make her normal. And so I could work that.
But if it's gonna hurt him, why would he be willing to do that?
That's what I have to address in the third act twist. So this is what I have happening. So she goes, she's just, I feel like she's willing to go and find out like where Caroline is, because Albert, like this is after Albert has been arrested, and she wants to help. So she's going, but she's trying to, because she feels like if she has the power to help, then she should help, but she's not like willing, she's trying her best to do it without reading. And so she's kind of going along, and she thinks she can get there and she can do it, and then she just kind of freezes when she gets there, and she can't make herself read Derek. And it opens up this can of worms. And then after that, I have Nate kind of making a deal with her that if she agrees to use her reading abilities to help him find Caroline, then he will help her figure out how to be normal, like how to get rid of her reading ability. And
if
then
getting rid of her reading ability is a possibility, why did her mother not do it ever?
Well, I think that's what I was thinking too. And I actually was working on that this morning during the 10-minute sprint, writing that out. And I think that she was going to, and then she died. So like she's going to find in
but
the
journal. Why did it take her 15 years if she chose to?
Because I think also she was going to, and then she had a child, and her child was a reader, and she realized that, and like, how is she going to help her if she can't also be?
Well, I mean, she didn't want to help her that much because she didn't even tell her about guides.
She was like 4 years old when she died.
Oh. I thought she died recently.
No.
Okay. So it's Dad who's decided not to tell her.
Yeah. Which I need to, I mean, there's some conflict there, but I don't want Dad to be a bad person. Like, I don't want him to, I think he's just like, he does not know a whole lot about this world, and it's over, like he's he feels like, so there's conflict at the beginning of the story between Dad and Birdie, because Birdie thinks that Dad is moving them to Tamarack because he doesn't trust her, but Dad is actually moving them to Tamarack because he doesn't know how to help her. Like, he doesn't know. Candace is overprotective, and that I think that's it. Like, he doesn't know about this, like, understand this whole reader world and the guide thing, and all he knows is that he what he blames her mom's guide for her death, and like, so I think he knows that there's some, like, I don't know if it's prejudice or, like, he just doesn't understand it, and he doesn't know how to help her, and he knows that the aunts probably know more than he does.
Well, so what if that's enough of a reason for her to refuse, that her father is sending her away to go to the aunts to learn how to be a guide, and it would maybe upset her so much that she would feel so betrayed that she would just be like, well, you can send me wherever you want, but I'm not going to learn how to be a guide.
Not a guide, a reader.
Whatever, a reader.
If that's enough, then the L thing, or like enough for what?
Well, you could have. I don't think you need to say in the beginning what it is. There can just be a beginning that something happened with her best friend.
That's what I have. Like, it's revealed throughout, like, later.
And it was enough of a thing for her father to realize that he had to do something to help her. And this is what he does. And she's so upset that she just flat out refuses to be a reader anymore. Like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to be a reader.
Yeah. That's, I mean, that's what I was, along the lines of what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so there's something big happened, and that's what I've always had, was that something big happened before that caused them to move, and started this.
But what if they didn't move? What if Dad just sent her?
But why would he not move with her?
Because he has a job. Because it's not supposed to be permanent. Because she's going away to college next year.
But what would be the point of him not moving with her, like, for the story?
Because he has a job and a career and a life.
He does, but his job is, like, he's got to travel for his job anyway, so it's not. Well,
that's because you need to send him away.
Well, no, but, like, he would, even if he lived in.
Well, I mean, is it important to your story that he travels for his job?
No, but I want the dad there in some aspect, like.
Well, I mean, they're not that far from Portland. Come to visit her on the weekends or whatever. I mean, I think they need to resolve their relationship by the end of the story.
But if they resolve their relationship,
somewhat.
Don't you think that he's gonna expect that she moves back to Portland?
Not in the middle of her senior year.
I mean,
well, plus there was something that happened, right? So there's another reason.
Mm-hmm.
But he also finally just realized, I can't help my daughter, like, keeping her from, like, finding her guide or knowing what her guide is or whatever, like, is hurting her. So he finally realizes that after whatever happened with Elle.
Maybe.
So here's another thing I have. I'm not sure, in sitting here thinking about your story, that you have the right inciting incident, because her world is that she's a reader.
She
And that
is.
she has a guide, and that somewhere out there, and that when she finds her guide, he will be able to read her.
She doesn't know about guides, though.
But it's still zero. No one
It
has
is,
ever.
but so
This
is the
with her
inciting
aunts,
incident,
and
though.
her father is gone.
The inciting incident is not her finding out about the guides. It's her sitting in class and all of a sudden Nate is like talking to her through her mind.
I know, but that is something that
That's not normal. She can't. People don't talk back to her.
Her guide will not be able to talk to her. So
You will, but her guide won't. But she doesn't know about guides, and she's never she's read people. She's read people, but they don't. They're never been able to like talk back.
Right, but unless it's unusual even for a guide to be able to talk to her or her guide. I find it unbelievable that the aunts have not told her anything about a guide. Her dad's not even there, and the whole reason she's there. So I don't think you need to change that. I just don't think that's the inciting incident. So I think that if this is not a romance, the inciting incident is probably not going to surround Nate. It's going to surround Caroline. So what she goes to talk to Derek at what point in your story? What's going on in your story around 5,000 to 8,000 words in?
That Derek and
okay, they're at Derek's house.
Yeah.
Okay, so she goes to Derek's house to read him or with Nate. I'm not saying you need to change your story. I just think that's not the inciting incident. I don't think it is. I think it's too much like her ordinary world.
It's like know it. A super shocking thing to her, which I think would make it.
I'm struggling to believe that nobody at any point in her life, up to 16 or 17 years old, has told her.
But it's been her and her dad. That's it. She's never been around any. She didn't even really know her aunt before. No. After she did when she was a kid, but after her mom,
the first day with them, and she hasn't been alone with them at all.
She did when she was a kid, but after her mom died, it was just her and her dad.
And now she lives in their house.
Yes.
All summer long.
Well, not all summer. She's just moved there
for more than 5 minutes, like more than one day.
Yes, but I don't. But that's what's like part of the thing is she's to figure out why she didn't know about all this, and I think that there's some resentment against her mom's guide, and that's why.
Even from the aunts.
I mean, I think there needs to be because she needs to not know what guides are. She needs to be surprised when she's sitting in her classroom and all of a sudden, like, somebody's talking to her.
Well, she can be surprised, but then realize what it is. And if she doesn't, then you're going to have to make the reader believe that literally in 16 years, nobody gave her this. This is equivalent to me to the movie Carrie, right? Or the book Carrie, where, like, I don't know if you read the book. It's particular in the book. It's stronger, but it's in the movie too. If you've only seen the movie, and you may not have seen either one because you don't like horror stuff. So I'm going to tell you that Carrie is in high school, like she's 16 or so, and she's in the gym. She's taking a shower, and her period starts, and she literally does not know what it is. Like literally, has an absolute panic attack that she's bleeding to death because she has no idea, and the teacher that comes to find her because she's screaming in the bath, like that she's dying, is cruel to her, mostly because she cannot believe that this 16 or 17-year-old girl does not know what a period is. Okay, that's the level of this. Like, I need to be able to at least suspend my disbelief that literally no one would have ever told her, that she's never come across another reader. Nobody, her mom had no friends who were readers who have tried to reach out to her since her mother died. Her father kept perfect wraps on everything to do with being a reader, that he never let it slip that he was angry at her guide or anything, and that she's lived with her aunt for at least days, maybe weeks, with her aunts, and that they have never said anything to her, literally not one word about guides. So that the idea that there is a guide is a complete revelation to her.
Well, I think that what I explained that down to was that about her dad and her dad blaming her mom's guide for her death.
He's not there though for weeks.
He isn't, but I like had that to me, like what I have had or what I've been planning was that the dad told the aunts that he's made it clear that he doesn't want her to have a guide, that he thinks that she can do this without a guide because her mom did or whatever.
Kenda has some notes in the chat about like trying to keep the dad from being unlikable. I don't understand how it's important to your story that she be this shocked about having a guide or that there is such a thing.
Yeah.
Or because I'm having a hard time believing her dad could keep it secret when he's so resentful that it's 15 years later or whatever, or 10 years later, he's still holding on to it to the point of being okay that his daughter is hurting from the lack of a guide. So I think that you think it needs to be that way, but I don't think it does. It doesn't feel to me like it does. I think that it would be okay for her to like realize she has met her guide, and that would be okay. Like if we're gonna let's talk about a book that we both know pretty well, which would be Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So the inciting incident is not the owl trying to deliver a letter, even though that never happens and he never gets letters, whatever, and it getting hidden. That's not the inciting incident, right? The inciting incident doesn't come until Hagrid shows up to like give him his invitation, right? And so I feel like the inciting incident for you will probably happen at Derek's house, right? And she has a panic attack, right? She's trying to read him and it's causing her to have a panic attack.
But there's a lot that happens between then and that.
Yeah. And that's okay.
All right.
Your inciting incident usually happens about like 10 to 15% of the way through your story. So 8,000 words is 10% of an 80,000 word story. So say 8 to 10,000 words in.
Mm-hmm.
So what if your inciting incident is the first time that Nate acts like a guide to her, right? And she, for the first time, uses her ability with a guide. So he's like, let me guide you, like this is my job. Let me be your guide and we can do this, right? And then she goes back in and she's able to read him with Nate's help. And so then the question becomes like, will you let me be your guide? Because you could have where she doesn't trust the idea of guides either because her dad doesn't. And that makes way more sense to me. If she blames the guide and her father realizes that his own resentment has led her to the point of hurting herself to avoid having a guide, he would send her to the aunts because she needs help that he can't give her. And so then your inciting incident is the question of like, are you going to let me be your guide? Like, are you going to let me help you? And then the lock-in will be what happens a quarter of the way through. So say 20 to 25,000 words in. What are you writing right now? That's about where you are.
Right now, she's met Nate's parents, and which I have that planned for, like, I think that I'm gonna have to push that back because I had it planned for like well, no, it doesn't have to involve. So right now she's met Nate's parents. And they're a reader and a guide. So it's kind of like her first interaction with like a reader and a guide who's in a relationship and like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's where she finds out that her mom chose her dad over her guide. That her mom was supposed to be with her guide. That's traditionally how it's gone, but she didn't.
Right. And how does Nate handle that? Like what happens?
Nate, that's a scene that I need to rewrite with Nate because I don't think I wrote it right. I think I had that scene passing a little too amicably between the two of them. And I think that Nate needs to be I think that Nate needs to like have really understood like the full because he grew up in the world. Like his parents never hid it from him. He's always known that he was gonna find a reader and that this was a part of his life, and his parents have prepared him for it. And I think that this dinner is kind of opens his eyes to how much she doesn't know about their
Yeah,
whole.
but so then he's prepared for her to be his soulmate. Why is he looking for his girlfriend? Why does he even have a girlfriend?
Hmm. And you found every single one of my plot holes in like an hour.
So I don't like. I'm not going to believe that he doesn't know because
I know.
it's her soulmate.
Yeah.
So what if, like, Caroline, like he was dating Caroline, but he was not in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like he didn't expect to meet his soulmate. His parents maybe were in their 20s when they met or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something he expected to happen in high school.
I think that
But he then could be feeling guilty, especially if they broke up because Caroline realized that he just would not ever be serious about her.
Mm-hmm. I think that also like there is this is something that Nate has been told is going to happen, but it never has happened yet, or it hadn't happened yet, and he's in the meantime had formed this bond with Caroline.
But I mean, he could be dating her like casually,
Yeah.
and then they could break up because she realizes that it will not ever be more than
Mm-hmm.
casual, and it irritates her or whatever, and he feels guilty because then she disappeared, um and then so that's why he's looking for her. It's not to find his girlfriend, but just to find her because he feels responsible,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of not bred into him, but like part of his psyche, right? Is this level of responsibility for other people. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
So if Nate, yeah, if it, because right here in the where you are now after the
Mm-hmm.
dinner, when it becomes very obvious to Nate how little she knows, and it becomes obvious to, or at least she thinks it's obvious to Birdie that great, Nate's supposed to be her soulmate, but he has a girlfriend and he's asked her to
Mm-hmm.
help him find her.
And he's just
And
found out this big thing about her mom. She has, that.
yeah, like it's too much for her, and they can have a conversation like a they can have like the inciting incident could be him telling her the reason why he had already broken up with Caroline, and why he feels like he needs to find her, and she can tell him the truth about her mother, and and her mother guide, and that she's grown up feeling like her mother's guide was responsible for her death. And then they can just decide, like, are we going to like see what happens here or not? And that's the lock-in, is when they do something that is so if like, depending on the strength or the weight of your romantic subplot, like they kiss here,
that's what I have happening, actually.
Yeah, but it makes more sense if we know that he is broken up with Caroline and that he wasn't.
Yeah,
because I don't want to dislike him. And if he's got this girlfriend that he's in love with and she's missing and then he's kissing another girl, it's like weird. But if they had already broken up and he, he makes it clear that he messed up, he should not have tried to have a casual thing with someone when he knew there was someone else out there for him.
Yeah. But so how then, I feel like that, like, why would Nate be so driven to find Caroline?
Because he feels guilty. Like it's his fault for leading her on or whatever.
I feel like that feels too easy.
What do you mean easy?
I don't know. Like he feels guilty, so he thinks that somebody else, that like
he feels guilty, and so he wants to find her to make sure she's okay. He doesn't think that she's dead, right? Does anyone think she's dead?
No, they don't. It's just kind of like a cold case at this point,
right?
But like, and it's like he, yeah, I think maybe what I need to fix is when I have him asking Birdie to help him, I think it maybe sounds a little too blackmailish. And so like, that's what I'm like, if he.
Well, that's something you can fix in revision. It's not a plot point change, because I think it's still there, but it's just the reason is different. Instead of trying to find his girlfriend, he's trying to find this girl who he hurt, who has disappeared, and he just wants, he wants to help her because he hurt her and he feels responsible, and he's somebody who has been raised, and it's part of his I don't know if psyche is the right word, but part of his built makeup to take responsibility, right? To be responsible for other people.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
So then your lock-in becomes them kissing. Yeah. But it also becomes her deciding that she is going to maybe she was not able to read Derek the first time, and she decides that she's going to go back and try again. And then that's the lock-in, and then they kiss.
Okay. And
what?
Now I feel like I have no midpoint or main climax.
Well, what was your midpoint?
My midpoint was that Nate and Birdie go to question Derek.
I thought you already wrote that.
Yeah, I did. I thought that was my midpoint. This originally, when I planned it, was going to be.
How many words have you written?
This was going to be my plan for this was I was planning on writing like an episodic thing, so it was only supposed to be, I don't know, 30,000 words, but I think it's turning into a full novel, which I'm not upset with, but it does move things around, like making my midpoint my lock-in. But what I had was that Nate and Birdie go to question Derek, and then Birdie is, not willing or not able to read Derek, and it upsets Nate, and she starts opening up on the way home to kind of what happened in Portland. So I mean, I could have her something about her kind of opening up about what her life was like before Tamarack, like what happened before Tamarack.
Mm-hmm.
With Nate. It doesn't have to be right after the Derek thing, but I could, that part might be my midpoint, maybe. Like her feeling comfortable enough that she can start talking about like what was so traumatic to make her, suppress her.
I think your midpoint has to be them getting some kind of lead about Caroline. It's gonna be a big win. They might find her in that midpoint, right?
Well, I had here so what I had was she opens up to Elle, or about Elle to Nate. So what about what happened in Portland to Nate on the way home from Derek's? And that's when he like proposes that if she helps him find Caroline, then he'll help her become normal, which is the like helping her figure out how to make her not a reader.
Okay.
So
I think you need to think that part through some, because I don't know why he would do that.
Well, I think that I think he cares about her, and it's like, I don't know. I have to think about what happens to him, and I think it needs to be something where it's like big enough that she would ask that, the part of the third act twist would be her confronting him about why he would, agree to help her with this, but not big enough.
What if she finds something in her mom's journals, like her mom was researching that?
That's what I had.
And found a way. So it's not him that found a way, it's her. You said his parents know how.
Oh, yeah.
But what if it's her mother who had been researching ways to sever this bond?
I had that in there, but it was not connected to like that's how she found out about that it's like a bigger, like it has a consequence for the guide, was from her mom's journals.
Okay. So the midpoint might be, is your main story Caroline, or is it Nate and Birdie becoming reader and guide? Like accepting this relationship?
I think that's a...
Like when you were talking about what is your story about, you did not say it was about these two teenagers trying to find a missing girl. You said it was about...
Yeah, because I want them to be like where, like a series of books where they could be read as standalone, but there's kind of this...
Right. But I think that in this particular book, the point of this book is Nate and Birdie's relationship. I think you might be writing a romance.
I don't want to write your romance.
I think you're writing an urban fantasy, but I think that the relationship between Birdie and Nate is like the strongest.
Yeah.
Ooh, Pat says maybe what he means by normal is not what she means. And she wants to be ordinary, and he means her powers will feel normal.
So she could find out early on that from her mom's journals about this, that there's a way to like sever her abilities, and just assume that when he is alluding to normal, that he can help her be normal, that's what he means. I don't know. I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what is my midpoint? Now I don't even know.
Well, I think your midpoint would be Birdie figuring out that there really is a way for her to
be normal, to be ordinary,
to not to give up being a reader.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, that's actually not all that different from what I had here. Just a portion of it, but it's a pretty big portion of it. That's different, I would say. Okay, so then the main climax I have is the police find a body in the ocean that they believe to be Caroline, and they
in the ocean. Do they just find bodies in the ocean? It would be
well,
washed
I
up
mean,
on the shore.
it's like a maybe yes, washed up on the shore or something, but like this is like a beachside town, and there's nothing that happens with the ocean.
Yeah, but I think that bodies don't just like show up. I mean, it's hard to find a body in the ocean.
Yeah. So okay, then it washes up on shore,
or it gets like picked up by a fishing boat.
Something. Yeah, they find a body, and they believe it to be Caroline, and I think I have in the main climax is that I had Birdie learning about her mom's guide and that her mom turned down her guide to be with her dad. But I think that happens actually earlier. Maybe.
Okay.
Well, maybe not though. I think that this could be like her actually realizing that that's what happened. Right. And that her actually, like, I think maybe planting the seeds to her realizing that, like, the consequences for Nate of her not, of her, like, not being a reader.
Well, also, if there's going to be major consequences for Nate, I feel like we need to start seeing some of them.
Yeah, so I think that needs to happen in the mind. Like, that needs to start happening in the main.
Because she feels better. She's found her guide, and he takes away her pain. Maybe unless they like bond or whatever is supposed to happen to make them soulmates. He just takes on her pain and like keeps it.
Until Ooh, I like that. It really kind of started.
Samuel was so obsessive was because mom, and also like it could be why dad, like it could have been a relatively selfish act for Birdie's parents to be together.
Yeah.
Because it left Samuel in a position of having to be her guide and then not being able to.
I like the idea that her mom was not perfect and that Birdie like starts to realize that here.
Right. Me too.
Yeah, Candace says, so your theme is acceptance of her gifts. And yeah, that is my theme. I think. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I wonder if Samuel will come into the story at any point.
I want him to come in, like, be a part of the second book. I think that I had this idea that he's like the overall like big villain of the series. And now I'm like, I don't know if he's villainous. I think that he's maybe made out to be the villain to Birdie.
The villain in what way?
Like,
he takes Caroline?
No, like I don't know. I think I had originally that he actually did have some kind of role in killing Birdie's mom, but I like the idea that the mom, like her mom was in an accident, like he wasn't
What
that
happens
involved.
to a guide if his reader dies?
I don't know. I haven't spent a lot of time, like that's something that I'm been thinking about, like just started thinking about, I think, like what I think it's kind of like get like a hollow feeling, right? Like it's like they have this call to be connected and to help this person, and then when that person is gone, it's like that's their life mission and it's just gone. I think, some sort of depression like thing maybe. But I think it also just kind of makes him go a little crazy. And I think that that's maybe what was happening with Samuel. That he...
Well, no, what was when she was still alive should be different from how when she's dead. Because it could be so severe what happens after she dies that when Birdie says to Nate, I think he killed my mom, Nate can be like, there's absolutely no way that happened because blah blah blah, whatever it is.
Okay. So, yeah, I do plan on Samuel coming into the story, but that was like going to be in the second book. Right. Not this book.
But like I like the idea of that exploration of that starting here.
Yeah.
Like Nate telling her, like her understanding, like what happens.
Yeah, I like that too. I need to think
and it being like a relatively severe consequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not death, but like I don't know what.
Yeah, I've just spent some time thinking about that.
So the midpoint is probably going to be what happened. Like, it's going to be a big win for Birdie. Mm-hmm. And I think it should be her finding something in her mom's hidden, like in her mom's diary or something. That like shows that her mom actually figured out how to sever this bond with Samuel.
Yeah.
And then like what to do, like she realizes that she knows how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom has left her instructions.
Yeah, I think.
And that's her big win. And then her, like, the Dark Night of the Soul then is next. So
that's the main climax, right?
Yeah. And so this is going to be everything coming together at the same time, right? So
yeah, I think they have the body. They find a body that they believe is Caroline's. They, and I think that Birdie finds out like more of like how the consequences towards Nate, right? Like what happens to Nate if she gives up her reading abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Are the big things that happen in the main climax. So that stays the same then, or for what I have already. Like that was the.
But not just finds out what they are, but realizes that there's already things happening to Nate.
Yeah, she starts to
because she won't let him help her the way that he needs to. Mm-hmm. He's suffering in some way.
Yeah.
Because she keeps like continuously refuses her gift.
Yeah. I like that he kind of takes on these negative side effects that she had at the beginning of the story. And that the reason she doesn't have them anymore is because he takes them on. And I think that I've already kind of started to allude to that. So I think I might go with that.
Yeah,
Like,
but
he realizes
also
that that's
realize that
happening.
you didn't make them super severe because you
I
made
know.
it so
Yeah.
where she's willing to take, to have those consequences rather than read someone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you are going to make it where, oh, sorry, where he is, I don't know, going to, hmm, like where he is going to, I don't know what I want to say, like how I want to say this. If you are going to make it where he's going to have the consequences, you can't make it where like the consequences are, if he's just taking on her consequences, you have to raise him for her. So she was actually putting up with quite a lot of what?
Mm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think it's started talking about when I was trying to work out the new stuff that happened, that it just was like a lot of willpower and energy for her to like actively not read people, just like automatically, and
Right, but I mean, she doesn't. She puts up with it for quite a
mhm,
long time without
yeah,
like super severe
yeah.
consequences. So like he would not have a easier time, I mean a harder time than her dealing with it.
I think it's something that builds up the longer she suppresses it. And so I think that, like, because she's not feeling it anymore, she's like, well, this is the most normal I've ever been. And she just continues doing what she's doing. And she doesn't realize that it's been building up on Nate instead.
Okay.
So
All
it
right.
starts off. Well, so when she feels it, so at the beginning of the book,
Right.
it's not, it's she gets really bad headaches, but she can handle it, and it's better than doing what she was doing.
Right.
And then she meets Nate, and yeah.
But
Hmm.
like if Nate like has a seizure or something
Yeah,
and
yeah.
ends up like in like severely ill, and then his parents would know what was going on, and they would
Mhm.
maybe like his
Yeah,
mother or father might confront her
yeah.
and say like you're killing our son, or you know what I mean.
Mhm. Yeah, I want her to end this book like realizing that the point of having a guide is that she doesn't have to like deal with all of this like on her own.
Right. I think I at least am finding myself struggling with the idea that she doesn't really have a choice with Nate.
Mhm.
So I think that you need to at least address that, right?
Yeah.
Like it works.
Well, I mean, I have written some of that, and what I have written is that she has a choice. What she's realizing what her mom, because her mom was able to make a choice.
Yeah,
And
but it caused Samuel to
yeah,
suffer. So she was able to make a choice, but it was a relatively selfish one.
yeah. And it's not, so I think she realizes at first she's going to find out that she does have a choice, but I think that as the story goes on, she's going to find out like how selfish of a choice that would be.
Right.
So she
And
does have a choice, even if it's not selfish. Whether or not it's selfish, I mean, it's a choice that she can make that she has less consequences for her than it does for Nate.
right. But just know that then you're writing a story about a girl who decides to accept being a
Well,
soulmate to a boy,
hmm,
whether she wants to
yeah,
be or not. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Well, then how do I get around that?
I don't know. What would have happened? Like, does being a soulmate have to mean being romantically involved?
No, I don't think so. And I think that that's like what I think that in the way that I had started to explain it in the story was that that's how it was originally understood. Like that, it had to be, it was kind of an all or nothing thing. But, what her mom and Samuel were realizing is that it wasn't exactly all or nothing, that she did have more of a choice and that she didn't have to stay close to Samuel. And I think Samuel needs to not be as much of the bad guy as I'm making out to be. And I think she's going to figure that out. But
so what if a big, like, her father has all of this guilt because his jealousy caused a lot of this pain for everybody involved,
yeah.
because Samuel and her mother could have just been close
Mm-hmm.
without being like, it would have been okay for her to be in love with someone else, but her father couldn't accept it.
Yeah.
Would that work?
I mean, it would, but I mean, her mom still had to feel that at the same time too.
Had to what?
Had to feel like,
Well, her mom then, I mean, she died relatively young, so she could have just been like, if she had lived, they would have figured it out, but she didn't. So,
yeah.
like, she didn't live. If she had lived, then they would have figured out a way to deal with this, but she didn't live, so.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So part of the dark night of the soul then for Birdie could be realizing that it wasn't Samuel that was the problem, it was her father and her father's jealousy, and that her mom might still be alive if he had been able to allow her to not sneak around. Like, maybe she didn't die because Samuel wouldn't meet her. Maybe she died because she was trying to get home because her husband wanted her, like, was upset, that she was going to stay overnight in Tamarack or whatever.
Yeah.
And so she tried to drive home in the middle of the night and hit a deer or something. And so what gets revealed is that Dad has this massive sense of guilt.
Yeah. Back to work.
Because then he's not a bad guy, really, but he did he caught, he was a he did something, or his jealousy, and so part of why he's sent his daughter to live with her, the aunts, to try to give her, it is like atonement, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's not, he needs to hurt his daughter when he realizes that she is making herself suffer. He has to figure out a way to help her and to atone, yes, like Kenda just said in the chat, like atone for his own selfishness or his own actions.
So then the third act twist would have to involve her finding out about her dad's involvement there.
Well, no, I think that the third act twist would be, I think the third act twist would be her, I think it would be them finding Caroline. would have to be involved somewhere in there. And her just realizing, at least for now in the story, that she can be, Nate can be her guide and even her soulmate, and it doesn't mean that she has to do anything that she doesn't want to do or that she doesn't feel ready for.
Yeah. I feel like that's what I've been trying to establish and where I am in the book, is that it's a kind of, I guess, I don't know, like antiquated or whatever, like an old timey idea that the soulmate thing means that it's like, love, and not that it's just like they're connected, that they have a bond, that it's their bond and their souls are like connected. And that doesn't have to mean that, I don't know. That's what I'm trying, but I have been like trying to work through where I'm writing right now. And it was like something that her mom had started to realize, I think.
Right.
And Samuel. I like that Samuel, that it was both of them. They both realized that was not
what?
I like the idea that I think I had felt like I needed to have a villain, and I was working up Samuel to like be this villain, which I think he's still like the idea of him before she really knows like the full story. He is kind of the villain. And but by the end, she figures out that that he's not, and I think it helps her to open up to Nate more.
Right. But I think she can find that out. Like the third act twist could have something to do with her mother's journals. Like she could find something in those journals.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's your third act.
I think so too.
Twist.
Candace says, so is that
her resolution, her discovery that she can choose for herself? I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I think if this was going to be a series, that eventually that their relationship would get stronger.
It would be. I think that is a part of it. And the main resolution is that they find Caroline and she uses her ability.
And I also think it's possible that like neither one of them, like guides and readers are pretty rare, right? So it's possible that neither one of them, and maybe Nate's parents and the aunts, like they don't know any guides who and who are not like romantically involved.
Yeah, that's what I had.
And so it could be building up. Like that the third act twist is them realizing that they can be soulmates without being without making a choice that is, like where both of them still have, not just her, him too, have these choices.
Yeah, that's what I had been writing, but I think maybe I need to put less. I was getting a little too feminist in building up the part that it was like more one-sided, but I think that it needs to not be. Yeah, it's not really one-sided because it's still. Yeah, it needs to not be one-sided. Like it needs to be like equal.
Right.
That makes sense. That helps.
Okay. So, are you feeling resolved?
I mean,
no?
I think so. Yeah, I need to rewatch this and take notes now, but definitely changed the the beginning of my story, or just the way that I had it. Not really, but like, I think I have a lot more writing to do than I had thought. I think it definitely is novel length and not novella length.
Yeah. I think so too.
And I was going for novella length, but I think that I'm okay with it being a novel. Just I have to accept that. All right.
Okie dokie. So I think that's it. We've been doing this for almost 2 hours.
So Pat says, so the inciting incident is about 5K.
Well, it's about 10 to 15% of the way through. So in an 80,000 word book, that would be, say 5 to 10,000 words in. Not necessarily like, oh, I'm at 5K. Like, especially Pat's writing a historical, so there's going to be some world building in the beginning.
Your book's going to be longer than 80,000 words.
Yeah, but the extra words are likely going to be at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because she's telling, she's going to have some world building to do.
Mm-hmm. It always cracks me up when somebody who's writing historical fiction is like, I have to cut down words. My book's like 150,000 words. And I'm like, have you ever seen a historical fiction novel that's not like that thick? Because I have not.
Well, yeah, but most like first books are not going to be over 150,000 words. You would have, unless they're self-published, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. I think
it happens, but it's pretty rare.
They're on the chunkier side for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes, but not always.
Well, I think it's just a different style of writing too. Like historical fiction is more descriptive.
More what?
Descriptive.
Well, it's just that there's world building. You have to build this historical world for your reader, especially if it's a time period where, like, most of your readers did not live through.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they are Diana Gabaldon, right? But I've read where Diana Gabaldon even acknowledges like that it was super unusual for her to get a first novel that was so long. But hers is like 300,000 words for first book. I looked it up once.
Is The Pillars of the Earth Can Follett's first book? Because that one is chunky. No. He wrote books before that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but he always writes historical, and I don't know what his first book was, to be honest. But like Stephen King often writes really long books. Carrie is very small. The first Harry Potter book is like half or a third the size of the last one.
Yeah.
It's a little on the unusual side for a first novel to be like super, super, super long if it's traditionally published. But you read something like Outlander and like something that the publisher recognizes as something that's going to catch on, and like you get leeway. Her first book is very long. Interesting that neither of those authors I don't think either of them have written anything that's not in those worlds.
Diana Gabaldon has not written anything other than the Outlander series?
Nothing outside of that world. She's written some stories that are about side characters, where the side character is the main character.
I feel like I wonder if she's one of those authors that, like, can she write anything else? Like, if she's gotten herself in a hole where people just, like, expect that she's writing about.
Well, I think that if she wrote a 300,000 word book that was in a different world and this story is not finished being told yet, there might be rebellion, but I don't
know. All right. Well,
all right, guys. Thank you for being here, and we will talk to you later. Bye. See you if you want to come by tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to have a live sprint for 10 minutes.
On YouTube.
Bye.
Bye.